Good evening, everyone. I'm your host for tonight, and I am Gary Baumgarten tonight. Well, no, actually, I'm still Cassandra Wood, but I'm in place of Gary tonight, who is out on an assignment. Welcome here to News Talk Online. News Talk Online is a production of paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users. We're on demand on iTunes, on iPod, on Blip TV, and on GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with him or not. And he says there's no retribution, but he will take you to task in here, or he'll question you in here. I'd also like to say a big thanks to our friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, where we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. Welcome to the show. A reminder that to keep up with the news you may or may not see, hear or read on mainstream media, please go to our site. It is an absolutely brilliant site. It's www.reportergary.com, and there you will see things and get the up-to-date news as it happens, and reports from out in the field, out there with our correspondents who live in far-flung places like Jersey City and Texas and Rhode Island and Pakistan and Australia and Germany and England and Scotland and South Dakota, wherever. Anyway, sorry, I'm being flippant here. It's probably because I had an hour's warning of the show tonight, and so I'm allowed to be a little flippant. Anyway, it's getting near the end of the week. It's we are at Thursday already, but I want to sort of follow up on some things that have we've heard about before. I would like to take you back in time. To those movies that you those movies that you watched with all the gunfights and the prohibition and all of that sort of thing. Think back to those films that you enjoyed watching and think about how it's now happening in a place near you. If you live in New York, New Jersey, or Jersey, and or Rhode Island, because there have been, the FBI have rounded up almost 130 alleged organized crime victims in the northeast of the country. As I said, the bulk of the arrests were in Rhode Island, New Jersey, or New York. More than 110 of the 127 arrested have been charged and will be appearing in federal courts in the districts in which they were charged. And these charges related to, now listen to this for a list: illegal murder, murder conspiracy, loan sharking, arson, narcotics trafficking, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling, and labor racketeering. That's to name but a few. Goodness, what else? And these go back decades. These crimes go back decades. Some of the guys arrested are in fact in their 80s, but it's quite a mixture of things. They sound as though they're doing a bit of a clean-up. Eric Holder said, and I quote, "Today's arrests and charges mark an important step forward in disrupting La Cosa Nostra's illegal activities." Well, we would hope so. So watch out, the mob, and Eric Holder and the FBI are on your case. And I'm not making light of this because, for sitting here in the United Kingdom, where, believe it or not, we do have some organised crime syndicates. It may sound as though I'm being flippant, but we do have to root out the Cosa Nostra, the mafia, and anybody else who organises crimes and takes advantage of people. The next piece of news, and I'm going to rush through these as quickly as I can. Do forgive me. I'm out of the habit of rushing, not having done the show for just over a week. Goodness sake! It's something that happened in the United Kingdom, and this is to do with somebody who is a peer of the realm. That means our upper house. It's a bit like your your Senate house in the United States, and she was made into a life peer, which means she's not a hereditary peer. It lasts as long as she's alive, but she sits in the upper house. Her name is Baroness Wolsey, Saida Wolsey, 40-year-old, who was a lawyer, a failed applicant to become a member of parliament. Saida, not Said, Saida. She's also a co-chairman of the Conservative Party, and she's also sits on in the cabinet with a responsibility to deal with the community cohesion. And she says that Muslim prejudice is now seen as normal. The prejudice against Muslims has passed the dinner table test. In other words, it's what you can talk about round the dinner table. So it's not something that's taboo. Okay? So that's what she's saying. She warns against labelling Muslims as either moderates or extremists, and that she will use her position, get this, she will use her position to fight what she describes as an ongoing battle against bigotry. In her speech, she blames the patronizing, superficial way faith is discussed in certain quarters, including the media, for making Britain a less tolerant place for believers. And she's expected to reveal that she raised the issue of Islamophobia with the Pope in his recent visit to the United Kingdom. She urging him to create a better understanding between Europe and its Muslim citizens. Well, I have to say to Saida Wolsey, she's never sat round our dinner table. And I think it's highly presumptuous for her to assume that she knows what's going on in the around the dinner tables of throughout the world. The next thing I want to touch on is the visit of the President Hu Jintao he held a meeting today behind closed doors with Republican and Democratic leaders, and they raised concerns about business and about human rights issues. This happened just a day after President Hu and Barack Obama had dined at the White House, and Obama had already pressed him on human rights issues, and he said the meeting was between Hu and House leaders. John Boehner emphasized intellectual property protection and security and the Korean Peninsula, whilst Nancy Pelosi addressed human rights issues. This followed a speech to business leaders about assuring China will stick to its policy of opening up to the world whilst denying that his country had expansionist intentions. Well, we can hear these things, can't we? Do we believe them? Well, we have to make our own judgments on that. He stated that the leaders of the Communist Party in China remained committed to a modern socialist country, but rejected interference on matters to do with Taiwan and Tibet, which they regarded as internal issues. He also pressed Congress to lift some of the controls on exports to China, a position that lawmakers said afterwards could be dealt with in a broad agreement, including a crackdown on intellectual property abuses. In other words, you know, let's as long as you don't rip off our products and infringe our intellectual copyrights. He told the House that he was working towards North Korea being a nuclear disarmed country, but stated that it was a very fragile situation. Well, I think we all know how fragile the situation is and how diplomatically it has to be dealt with. And Hugh has separately been described by both Democrats and Republicans as separately a dictator, and also as a model of an ancient Chinese emperor. So I'm not quite sure what the response to that is going to be. But you know, having mentioned those subjects, the floods in Australia, the issue with the mobster roundup, what's happening in Britain with Baroness Wolsey, and the visit of President Hu of China to the United Kingdom, I'm going to stop and take some questions. So please feel free to raise your hands if you want to talk on any of those, and let's see what your views are.